The following show is a Pod Avenue production. You are cordially invited to have dinner with the King. Pull up a chair and join WWE Hall of Famer Jerry the King Lawler and Glenn Moore. Enjoy.
This is Dinner with the King, episode number 58. I'm Glenn Moore, joined here by WWE Hall of Famer. A very exciting show for myself, King, because this week's guest is one of my probably top 5 favorite performers, characters of WWE, and that is Glen Jacobs, also known as Kane.
Kane. Are you going to do a lot of talking? You got a bunch of questions stored up that you're going to ask him when he gets on.
I have about 20 questions I want to ask him.
Don't drive the guy nuts, please. Don't drive.
Come on,
crazy.
I'm very respectable when it comes to having guests on, and I only get guests that have relation to Memphis. Had some time in Memphis, or intertwine their careers with you. So I'm not getting random people off the street that come on the show, King. I'm getting respectable talent.
This is a big. I mean, Glenn, it's a big deal. I mean, not only as he had the awesome career as Kane in the WWE, now he's embarking on another career in the political world. I mean, he's definitely going to be the next county mayor of Knox County in Knoxville, Tennessee, without a doubt. I mean, he won the primary, the Republican primary, and the election itself is August 2nd, and he's going to win. Yeah,
he's doing what you couldn't do, King.
Hey, watch it now. I'm glad I didn't, but he's going to be. I'm sure he's excited that he's going to be the next mayor up there. We'll ask him some questions about it. Well, he may not be excited. I don't know. We'll ask him when we get him on here and everything.
Now,
King, so what else is new?
Well, I mean, we had Jeff Jarrod on the last 2 weeks, and the response we've had to that show, those 2 shows have been terrific. Now, King, you and Jeff were trying to think of what was the reason why Jeff had to cut your grass. Remember, we were going back and forth. We couldn't figure out.
Well, somebody said something about changing a TV station on the radio. Well, that was not it. That's
what Mr. Jarrett says. That's what Jerry Jarrett says.
No, he did not tell you that.
He did. That's what he told me. I swear. I'm looking at the email right now. It's because Jeff was riding with you. Jeff Jarrett was riding with you, and he changed the radio station in the car without asking permission, and you got hot about it.
I don't think that's the truth. And who told me this story now? Because I asked somebody about it. But apparently it was Jeff had a new car.
Okay.
And I was riding with him, and we would always stop. I was, I ate so many McDonald's hamburgers back in the day, driving. And I mean, I would park under the McDonald's sign and watch the sign change. They said over 5 billion sold. I would eat so much that they would just change constantly while I was there. But apparently what happened was I'm riding in Jeff had a new Cadillac, and I'm riding in that, and I wanted to stop at a McDonald's, and he said, no, there's no eating in my car. Nobody's going to eat in my car. Oh. And apparently I said, really? I said, well, you know what? Just pull over right here and let me out.
No way.
Yeah, way. So apparently I got out of the car and he took off. And so that was then when that story got back to his dad, he was highly upset.
I can't see that happening. I can't. I think.
Maybe you can't see that happening. I certainly see that. Trust me. I know me. That would make me mad. But somebody switching the radio station would not upset me in the least.
I don't know, King. I've been in the car with you plenty of times.
Oh,
and when someone has changed that radio dial, I see the smoke coming out of your ears, King.
First of all, nobody ever does that except Lauren.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
And no, that does not happen. Does not make me mad.
So you think Mr. Jarrod is pulling a fast one over me, huh?
No,
he's just misinformed, I guess.
Yeah, misinformed. Yeah. But I think the true story was that he wouldn't let me eat in his car. Wouldn't let me eat McDonald's hamburgers. So he was afraid I'd get the sesame seeds or something on his new Cadillac.
So what did you do? You got out of the car.
I got out of the car and he left, and I don't know how I got home. But
I can't see that. I can't see Jerry Lawler on the side of the road. How would you get home? This is obviously before cell phones. What'd you do?
I don't know.
Payphone?
I don't know.
You call Bill Dundee to come pick you up or something?
I don't remember that part of it. I don't remember any of it in actuality. But trust me, that sounds more. I would get mad over that, but I wouldn't get mad over changing the radio station.
I don't believe it. I think it's the radio. Let the fans decide. Is it what story?
Well, you know what? You can call Jerry Jarrett and have him be a guest on our podcast, and apparently he may remember that.
Well,
I bet he would.
Speaking of Jerry Jarrett, a big announcement last week. While Jerry Jarrett is starting his own podcast called Booking Memphis Wrestling, with his podcast co-host Sean. While they're doing the podcast, Pod Avenue, which houses the Kings podcast, will have the official show page for Jerry Jarrett's podcast. So I'm sure we're going to have Jerry on in the near future to talk Memphis wrestling. And
cool.
So that's going to be a big little partnership.
We're now partners in crime,
partners in the podcasting world. And his Twitter's been blowing up. He's been talking a lot on Twitter, so I'm sure his podcast is going to be the same way. Lots of stories.
I got to get him. He's got to change his profile picture on Twitter. It's horrible.
What's his profile picture?
If you've not seen it, you got to go look on Twitter right now. Look at your phone.
I got to look at my phone really quick and see. Is it not flattering?
No, not at all.
Oh yeah, it looks like.
Come on, Jerry. Get a picture from back in the day or something to stick up there.
Well, he actually 39 minutes ago on his Twitter, he actually had glowing reviews about Jerry Lawler's barbecue joints in Memphis.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he's great. I'm looking forward to him and Sean talking Memphis wrestling, and I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of talk about the King on his podcast.
Probably so.
So you can find it on podavenue.com/Memphis. That's where you can find all the links to Jerry Jarrett's podcast, all the iTunes, everything's ready to go. And the first episode releases later this week. Back to, before we get to Kane, who should be calling in here very, very shortly. King, you were in the good old state of Texas over the weekend.
Oh, my goodness. Was I ever? Let me tell you something about Texas. It is hot. I promise you, it was hotter than Saudi Arabia.
Ooh.
And, that's the big desert and everything over there. This was freaking hot. I flew into Dallas. And that's another thing. American Airlines, oh, my goodness, what an ordeal that was getting back. Flying in was no problem. A great guy picked me up, Chris there, picked me up. He's a policeman from Hamilton, Texas. He picked me up, and we drove. This is one of those things that I really have it's a pet peeve of mine. You'll get booked. Somebody will call you up, and they say, why don't you wrestle in Dallas, Texas? And here's what we're going to pay you and fly you in and to hotel and all this stuff at the airport. Okay, you agree to do it. And then what you find out later is once you've agreed to do it, that it's not actually in Dallas. You fly to Dallas, and it's a 122-mile drive after you land. Yes, exactly. So anyway, that's what this was. We wrestled in a little town called Hamilton, Texas, and it was a fundraiser for the fire department. It was unbelievably great crowd there, and the people were so receptive and everything. But it's just small town, so it was almost like everybody came out. But the guy's thing on his truck when we got there, the little thermometer thing, said it was 104 degrees in Hamilton, Texas.
Oh my God!
Right, and we're wrestling in a school gym that had no air conditioning.
Oh no!
No air conditioning, and it was 104. So, I'm thinking stroke time number 2 coming up.
No. Well, I'm not even thinking that. I'm thinking that's a lot of people, a lot of sweaty bodies.
Yeah, but what the crazy thing I kept thinking, there's going to be nobody here. But everybody in the town was there, and because everybody knew the building was a school gym, and everybody in that town had gone to that school or was going to that school at one time or other, and they knew it wasn't air conditioned. So they came anyway, and they just, they made the best of it. It's a big fans going and stuff like that, but man, it was hot. So I did that, and then the next day, then we drove back to the airport. They dropped me off at the hotel, and I get to the airport the next morning at like 8:00, Dallas Airport. It's about a little hour and 15-minute flight from Dallas to Memphis. So my flight wasn't until 10:20. And there's another thing that I never do. I always, this, Glenn, I always have the promoter get me the first flight out, the earliest flight that I can get back home to Memphis. I usually take that. But this time, and there is a 6 a.m. flight from Dallas to Memphis, but this time they send me my itinerary, and my flight is at 10:20. And it gets into Memphis at like 11:30 or something like that. So I thought, I'm here by myself. Lauren's not here right now. So it's no big deal to get up. I don't need to I'm not in a big rush to get home. I'll just sleep a little later, and, that flight will be okay. It was not okay. Well, so I get there at 8:00. Finally, time to board the flight at like a 9:40 or something like that. And I see we're not boarding. And so I'm waiting. Then all of a sudden, the little sign on the thing up there has changed. It says scheduled now to go out at 10:50 instead of 10:20. 30-minute delay. So that's not too big a deal, but I'm saying, oh man, now I wish I'd taken that earlier flight. Anyway, 30 minutes later, the person comes on and says, well, we have a mechanical issue with this plane, and they're working on it. They have to go back to the hangar to get another part, and there's some wiring involved that they have to go and get. And we'll give you another update on the progress in 20 minutes. So, gosh, 20 minutes later, still they wait 30 minutes before they come back on and say, well, they've got the part now, and now they're in the process of putting it on, and we'll give you another update in 20 to 30 minutes. Oh, I want to kill myself at this point. So finally, 45 minutes later, they come on and say, well, this plane's been taken out of service. They're not going to be able to get this thing fixed. And I'm just, oh, gosh. They say, but we're working on getting another plane. The flight's not canceled. We're just going to get you people on another plane. So we sit there another 30 minutes, and the guy comes on and says, okay, we got another plane, and we're at gate like B-17. They said, this one is at C-29. So everybody jumps up, and they run. You got to go and walk all the way down and get on this big tram, SkyTrain thing that drives you all the way around the Dallas airport, which is huge. And so we're on this thing for 15 minutes, get off, and we go to C-29. Everybody sits down and is waiting for the boarding. So we see the pilot and the flight attendants get on. Like 5 minutes later, here comes the pilot out again of the door, and he's got his suitcase and luggage with him.
Oh.
And I'm going, oh, Lord. I said, we got another issue on this plane. Everybody's sitting over there thinking, oh, we're fixing to go. And I'm thinking, I can tell right now we got another issue on this plane. Sure enough, 15 minutes later, they come on and says, well, ladies and gentlemen, something was not working last night on the electrical system. Anyway, there's been no air conditioning on the plane all night long, and it's just been sitting out there. And it's about 100 degrees inside the plane, and the pilot has refused to fly it. So now we wait for another. He said, we're going to wait for another plane. We wait almost another hour, and then they come on again and say, we're going back to gate B something. So everybody has to go get on the train again, SkyTrain, back to gate B, get off, and they bring some sandwiches, some horrible sandwiches over, and some soft drinks and stuff for everybody. And then finally the flight attendants and everybody get on. And so I got to the airport at 8:00 in the morning, and I finally got home to my house at 4:30 in the afternoon.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a miserable. Miserable day.
That's no fault to the promoter, though.
No. I'm not blaming the promoter at all. No, those people were great. They did a really good job down there. They had a great, good promotion, some good talent, and it was a lot of fun doing the show. Except for it was very hot, and but American Airlines, I was real disappointed in them Sunday.
Well, and then you got back home just in time to see the implosion of the Indians bullpen again.
I literally, I told you, I walked in and turned the TV on, and like it hadn't been on 2 seconds, and Cody Allen throws the pitch and gives up the walk-off home run.
It was a terrible weekend for the Tribe. Terrible weekend.
It was a terrible weekend for the Tribe and the Cavs and all Cleveland sports.
Yeah, it was bad. At least the Browns, nothing really bad happened with the Browns. Hugh Jackson jumped in the lake on Friday.
He did?
Yeah, he did.
Did he really?
Yeah, they raised a bunch of money for charity, and a lot of the Browns employees, not like front office people, but like behind the scenes people jumped in with Hugh. They made it a big celebration.
People jumped in with you.
Yeah, so it was like he called it a cleanse. It was like a cleanse of losing. So,
good. I hope that works out.
But I wouldn't jump in Lake Erie to be cleansed.
I was going to say not to cleanse. You're definitely dirtier after you come out of Lake Erie than you were before you jumped in.
I posted a photo on Twitter. I'm like, this is what Hugh Jackson looks like. It was a photo of the Simpsons three-eyed fish. I think his name is Blinky. but yeah, so that's the Cleveland sports update for over the weekend. And I remember the first time actually I met our guest. It was backstage. I was with you, TLC in Baltimore, and you and I were in catering with Tom Savini.
Yeah, Tom Savini.
Yeah, in Baltimore. And I told you, obviously, Kane is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. And you're like, oh, really? And you said, hey, Glenn. And I'm like, what are you doing? Come on over here. Come on over here, Glenn. So, Glenn's he's not in he's just, regular person. Glen Jacobs comes over. And you said, oh, this is my friend Glenn. Glenn, this is Glenn. You're like, oh, hi, Glenn. And you go, oh, he's from Cleveland. And Glen Jacobs goes, oh, I'm sorry. And I'm like,
the reputation had preceded it.
Hey. And then the next day, I was at Raw with you backstage, and Glenn come on, Glenn was in full getup, full Kane outfit with the the whole getup, and he recognizes me, and he comes up to me and shakes my hand, and hey Glenn, good to see you, and he keeps walking. I'm like, if 14-year-old Glenn Moore was here, he would be in shock. But no. But I've enjoyed, the Kane character ever since it came about, and then obviously being hip to what Glen Jacobs was before with Issac Yankem and the Christmas Creature and Doomsday and Memphis. It's cool to have him come on, and it's going to be awesome. Hopefully, not going with it. You guys talk a lot about Memphis and how it influenced his career because, I'm pretty sure one of his first matches was with you, King.
Yeah, I think so. You're going to have to help me out with all the memories of that stuff. And I'm sure Glenn will remember vividly about his experiences here in Memphis, and of course working with me down here, and that was one of his I think first matches. But Glenn came down and worked for us quite a bit here in Memphis in the USWA, and he was a champion for us and all sorts of stuff. So that's gonna be good. Hey, you mentioned I'm getting a lot of feedback, even from you,
okay,
and from JR. About the post that I put on Facebook.
Okay.
I went to every year in Memphis. They have a thing called the Italian Fest, okay, and it is just like a big outdoor carnival celebration type thing where these people have these big tents and they're cooking all this. They have the judges. It's almost like the Memphis in May barbecue contest. But these people are all cooking Italian food, spaghetti and spaghetti sauce and lasagna and all this stuff. And then they have judges and they have contests and stuff. And it's just a huge turnout. And one of the reasons that I went, my buddy Jimmy Hart. We've talked about Jimmy Hart in the past, and a lot of people realize that back in the day, Jimmy and I went to the same high school, but he was actually 4 years ahead of me, and he was already gone out of high school when I started at Treadwell High School. But he was in what we call a little garage band back in the day, back in the era of the Beatles. Everybody wanted to be in a garage band. I was actually in one myself for a little while, and but Jimmy was in a group called the Gentrys, and they went on Ted Mack's Amateur Hour, which nobody's even heard of that, but we're really talking, old people might have heard of it. But anyway, they went on there, and they actually had a hit record that went to the top of the charts. Like when the Beatles were dominating the charts, the Gentrys had a record called Keep On Dancing. And Jimmy Hart was in the band with a guy named Larry Raspberry. And Larry was the lead singer. Jimmy Hart was a singer as well. And so anyway, Larry Raspberry has stayed in music all these years, and still he has a band called Larry Raspberry and the High Steppers. He lives in California now, but he came back to Memphis and played at the Italian Festival, and they did like a tribute to the Gentrys. They played all the old Gentry songs, and they had another member of the Gentrys, Bruce Bowles, was there up on stage singing with Larry. And so I went to this, and then I called Jimmy Hart afterwards and said, "Man, why were you not involved? Why were you not here?" And he said, "Oh my gosh, King, I just got back from he wanted to be here, but he'd been booked in New York with some kind of crazy." He told me his experience, and it was worse than my American Airlines flight, but he was involved in all sorts of travel stuff. But he didn't get to come to the Memphis Italian Fest. But so I went there to see that, and it was just there were a bunch of people. I also went with a friend of mine named Michael Donahue, and Michael Donahue is a guy who works for the newspapers and stuff in Memphis, and he takes pictures and all of this sort of thing that he does. And so he was there taking pictures of the Italian Fest, and he took a million pictures, and he had me in almost every single one of them. And it turned out to be a lot of pictures with lovely young ladies, which the Italian Fest was full of. And I posted some of them on the my Facebook page, and everybody was going nuts about it. It's like, I don't know what the deal was. Why were you? What were you saying when you saw those pictures?
I mean, first of all, I haven't used, I don't use Facebook that much anymore, but I'm on there and I see updates, and I see, Jerry Lawler posted an actual, not just a post, but like a Facebook story where like you can post pictures and they're available for 24 hours and then they disappear or whatever. And I'm like, I haven't even used that. How the hell is Jerry Lawler doing this? So I take a look.
Wait a minute now. What was that now? I didn't even know I posted a picture. I mean, all I did was I just like you usually do when you post something on Facebook. I just did like, what's your story? I hit that, and then I put up like 6 or 7 pictures, and I said, when you go to the Italian Fest with Michael Donahue, you get your picture made a lot, and boom, that's all I put.
Oh,
there was like a story.
Yeah, I mean, there's like I'm not sure if this is just like Facebook stories on the right hand side of my screen, and it shows like people updating, like a person right now just updated it, theirs 2 minutes ago. It tells you, and I know you posted it as a regular post on Facebook, but you can post it as a story too.
Oh.
And
if I did that, I didn't mean to. I didn't know I did it.
That's what I assume. Because anyway, so I see all these lovely Memphis ladies in these in the photo. All these different, and then there are a couple of guys in there, but the ladies were getting my attention. So the King, I mean, I'm sure this has got a lot of good reaction, and I'm sure some bad reaction though.
Why would I get bad reaction?
I'm just.
Well, let me just tell you this, and we'll have to, maybe we can do our next week's podcast on this.
Next week's about Jackie Fargo.
Oh, Jackie Fargo.
Yeah, next week.
Okay.
But what do you want to talk about, though?
I mean, everybody talked about the big breakup of John Cena and Nikki Bella, right?
Okay.
Well, I'm experiencing the similar situation. It's certainly not going to get the publicity that theirs did, but Lauren and I, after being together for almost 7 years, over 6 years, have decided to go our separate ways.
Oh wow!
So, anyway, that I don't know if that had anything to do with the pictures with the young ladies on the Facebook, but anyway, yeah, that's a thing that I'm kind of going through right now. It's just not a lot of fun at all.
Well, it looks like you're having fun.
Well, I tried to look like I was having fun. I really wasn't really having fun.
So,
but I tried to look like it.
I mean, I remember when I first met you, you were talking to Lauren. I think you guys weren't together, but you guys were talking. I remember you were driving down the highway to Baltimore, and you were ordering Amazon Kindles for Lauren for Christmas while you were driving.
And that's not when you and I first met.
I mean, no, that was the same year. We met in 2011, became friends.
Oh, we did? Really?
Yeah, 2011. I met you when
well, that's when I think that's when I met Lauren too.
Yeah, 2011, and then we became friends. Well, I met you during the summer of 2011, and then that later that year, that was when the pay-per-view in Baltimore, where I met Tom Savini and obviously Kane, and I was in Baltimore. We're driving to Philly, and that's when you were talking about Lauren, and you were ordering her a Kindle or something, or you were going to, because you kept asking me what the hell is a Kindle. That's a long period of that's a long time to be with someone.
Yes,
7
it is.
Years.
It is.
So, do you want to say anything? I'm sure she's unhappy with you saying this on the podcast, but
yeah, probably not. So maybe I should wait. And I don't think she listens to the podcast anyway. So
I'm sure a lot of people are going to tweet at her.
She doesn't do Twitter that much either.
Well, I'm sure she'll get something.
Yeah, she'll get something.
Yeah. So,
but anyway, she definitely saw the Facebook pictures, and that was.
She's not too happy with you right now.
Well, no, I think she just probably thought that I might have posted those pictures to see if it would make her jealous, and she said it didn't. So
well, we know, King. I'm sure you know that when a girl says she's not jealous, she's jealous.
No, you don't know that.
Oh, no.
Let's don't get this subject started here. Let's change the subject before we get Kane on. I want to take just a minute of the show now to talk to the guys in the audience, just the guys right now. Okay, this is just a moment or two between the King and all the guys that are listening right now, because we're going to talk about sex. That's right, good sex. You guys remember when you were always ready to go, huh? Well, there's a new product out, and it's called Blue Chew. That's right, blue like the color, and chew, and it can increase your performance and get that extra confidence in bed. I'm serious now. BlueChew.com brings you the first chewable with the same FDA-approved active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, so you know they work. Now, since they're chewable, they work up to twice as fast as a pill. So you can be ready anytime, day or night. Blue Chew is prescribed online and shipped straight to your door in a discreet package. Yes, that's right. No more in-person doctor visits, no more waiting in the pharmacy, and best of all, no more awkwardness. Blue Chew is made in the USA and ships direct, so they're cheaper than a pharmacy. So here's what you need to do. Right now, we got a special deal for our listeners. Visit BlueChew.com and get your first shipment free. Absolutely free. When you use our special promo code KING, K-I-N-G, all you do is pay $5 for shipping. Again, that's Blue, B-L-U-E, Chew.com. Promo code KING. Try it for free. It's Blue Chew, the better, cheaper, faster choice.
Well, I'm not afraid of these guys, but I did go out and get the biggest, the meanest, the most homicidal, the most psychopathic maniac I could find, and I'm going to introduce him right now. Ladies and gentlemen, Doomsday!
Whoa. That is a big individual.
People start popping off now, huh?
That is a big individual.
You got anything smart to say to me now, Michael?
And this man is to watch your back and is part of your stable here in the
That's
USWA.
right. This man's gonna watch my back. He's gonna help me.
All right, King. I'm very excited about this week's guest because as a child, I was terrified of this man on WWE television, but he is one of my all-time favorites in the ring. And you two share some out-of-the-ring attributes as well. We're going to get into that. He is a former WWE champion, a man with a long career in professional wrestling, intertwining with your career, King. Also a USWA champion. We're going to talk about that in Memphis. He is Glen Jacobs, known to everybody as Kane. Glenn, how are you today?
Doing great. How are you guys?
Well, Glenn, I'm so excited for you to be here today, but I want to get something out of the way early as I want to apologize. I told Glenn Moore, my co-host on this, when I got started doing this podcast, I said, look, I don't want to call my friends up and put them under the gun and ask them to be on the podcast, and because it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort and that sort of thing. And I just didn't, because I've been on podcasts before where it did take a lot of time and a lot of effort, and I wasn't really thrilled about doing it. So when somebody does agree to come on, I really do appreciate it. So I want to tell you, Glenn, that anytime you want to say, hey, I've had enough, Jerry, just let me know. But thank you so much for being on here today.
Well, I appreciate it. And, it's a long way from being your dentist. I'll tell you that. I'm a lot happy about that.
Man, let me go. Speaking of that, before we even mention the name of my dentist, because you're going to have to help me a lot with my memory on this stuff. But how far back do you and I go? I mean, I think we had one of your first matches was against me, wasn't it?
I think it was. I want to say that was 1991, maybe 1992.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was another infamous.
Yeah, I know, and I know you don't like to talk about that. I think that was my son. My son Kevin was just kind of getting into the. He got this wild hair and some kind of crazy notion that he wanted to be the next Vince McMahon, and so he was going to start promoting wrestling shows down here in the Memphis area. And I don't think I'd even met you. How did Kevin get you booked on that show?
Yeah, so actually, the first time I was down in Memphis for TV, me and another guy, and I can't even remember his name at this point. It was so long ago, and we haven't kept in touch. But we were like the Russian Olympic champions or something like that. And
of course,
came in and did a couple shots, for you guys, and that's how Kevin met me. And then he calls me later, and this is December, and he's got this idea for an evil Christmas character, the Christmas creature.
Man, look at that Christmas creature. He gets the 1, 2, 3. He just picked Trey Keller up by his throat and slammed him down in there. He's looked totally awesome in this now. He took care of Trey Keller and got the 1, 2, 3.
He is huge. There's no doubt about it. Prentice was yelling during the movie. Yeah, tell Jerry Lawler about him. I guarantee you Jerry Lawler knows about him. This guy is huge. He comes in all decked out in red, white, and green with the tinsel wrapped around, including the mask. They call him the Christmas creature. But I tell you what, he may be dressed in Christmas colors, but he is certainly not having.
And the thing is, it's funny because I had these gimmicks, and we've all had them through the years. But for some reason, everybody always likes to talk about my old gimmicks, probably because they weren't very good. And I always want to say, I did a lot of stuff after that was really good, but the early on stuff not so much. But anyway, yeah. So my mom made me this costume, and. With garland.
Hang on. Glenn, you said your mom actually made that?
Yeah, my mom made the costume. She sure did.
Oh, my gosh. See, I had no idea that. I thought that was some kind of crazy concoction that Kevin had come up with. And I've always held that against him.
Kevin designed it. My mom made it. But Kevin did design it. But it even had like flashing. I mean, it was way ahead of its time. It even had flashing lights with a battery pack in and the whole thing.
You were way ahead. You were way ahead of Chris Jericho on that, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. It didn't quite have the success of Jericho, but it was way ahead of him technologically.
Well, Kevin, Kevin would come up with these. He was actually a good guy as far as thinking up gimmicks. I'll never forget one time he brought me to my house. He brought me this big folder, this big, almost like a I don't know, this big book of pictures. And Kevin's a pretty good artist as well. And so he had drawn up all of these crazy characters. And there must have been 100 of them in there. And he wanted me to take it to Vince McMahon. And it was like he that was his specialty. He could come up with characters. And I actually did take it and give it to somebody in the WWE at the time. And nothing really ever came of it. I think they sent it back and said, we're really not interested. But then somehow, surreptitiously, and not long later, the Ringmaster showed up in the WWE, and that was one of the characters that Kevin had created in the book. But he never got any recognition or any monetary thing for it or whatever.
Poor Kevin, just like the Christmas creature never quite caught up to Y2J, the Ringmaster never quite caught up to Stone Cold Steve Austin. So
right, you're right.
Poor guy. But yeah, our first match, I think it was in Kennett, Missouri, you and me, and I remember Frank Morrell coming across. I think it was Frank, coming over to the bad guys' locker room and telling me what you wanted to do. And I had no idea what he was talking about. I was so green, I didn't even know the terms that he was using. So you were lucky just to survive that one, man.
And see, I've been under the impression all of this time, since that was the first time I remember seeing you, was in Missouri. I thought you were from Missouri, but you weren't.
I was,
right?
yeah.
Oh, you really
I am. I grew up. Yeah. I grew up near Hannibal, Missouri. A couple hours north of St. Louis. So yeah, man, I would drive down for TV in Memphis. That was about a 5 or 6 hour drive. I'd get up, at 1 or 2 in the morning and drive down to do TV at was that Channel 5?
Yeah, Channel 5.
Yeah.
See, that's one of the things that that's one of the things that a lot of times the fans don't realize is, what guys put into trying to get, when you try to get started in this business, you do things just to get booked anywhere. Like you said, what do you get up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and drive 5 hours just to be on maybe a 5 or 10 minute match on Memphis TV, right?
Exactly. Yeah. 'Cause it's all about getting experience and, getting exposure. Of course, again, I wasn't very good at that point, so it's probably lucky that I wasn't getting a whole lot of exposure, but the experience was great. I got to work with people like you, Bill Dundee, Dutch Mantell, who helped me a lot throughout my career. Of course, Dutch was there as well. So some of the people that I got to meet and the experience of just being around folks like you all really helped me a lot.
And then did you go from us? Is that when you went to Smoky Mountain? Was that the first place that you really kind of got established?
I actually went to Puerto Rico. Dutch got me a job with Carlos, and I was there for 9 months from, I guess it was the winter of 1993 through that year. And that might have been 94, I'm sorry. And then after that, I went to Smoky Mountain in the 1995, in December of 95.
And so, man, my memory is screwed up. So I started in WWE in 93. I could have sworn that you were there before me, but you didn't come until 95 or so?
I didn't come, but I had a tryout. We rode together for one shot. I had a tryout up there. It was me and Sabu were having tryout matches, and I think we both may have ridden with you around the loop. It was upstate New York. I forget where all it was, but yeah. So I wasn't there. I'd had a tryout and didn't make it. They basically told me to come back later, and that's when I went to Puerto Rico and did the rest of the stuff.
Well, you mentioned Dutch Mantell. Dutch was booking down in Puerto Rico for Carlos Colon, and Dutch just doesn't get the credit that he deserves in this business. He was an outstanding worker. I had some of the greatest matches ever down in Memphis with Dutch Mantell, and then he went on to be a darn good booker down in Puerto Rico, and like you said, he helped a lot of guys out in this business. You included, right?
Sure did. He was a great booker in Puerto Rico because he really understood the psychology of that territory. And it was pretty amazing. We were very hot, especially for that time. I mean, Carlos Colon's TV wasn't, his TV's always been, okay, as far as, ratings wise, but it's trying to get people out to the matches, not so much all the time. And right. Dutch was able to do that. I mean, we were drawing very well. He created sort of a Stone Cold character. Hurricane Castillo was along that same lines of, of really a heel, the anti-hero loner, anti-establishment figure. And that was a little before Austin, actually. And then Dutch was really good also at creating stables and factions and sort of bringing it all together in storylines. And
one of the two cool, Puerto Rico is a great place to wrestle, and like you said, living down there it's a lot of fun. But I said Dutch doesn't get much credit, but one of the things that also doesn't get much credit is like the Memphis territory. A lot of those guys that came out and went other places, like Dutch, who came from Memphis, started there, and then went down and became the booker in Puerto Rico. Bill Dundee went down and became a booker for Bill Watts in Mid-South. Jim Cornette, of course, grew up in Memphis and then became the booker for Smoky Mountains and all of that stuff. I mean, I think what happened, a lot of guys watched the stuff that they grew up around there in Memphis, and then when they got the job, they sort of translated a lot of the stuff that they had done or been a part of in Memphis into the other territories, and it had never been seen there before.
Exactly. And, I think about the Andy Kaufman angle and how that, really put everything in Memphis on the map as far as in the minds of, wrestling fans around the country, and to this day is so legendary. So there's a lot of cutting edge stuff going on there. Of course, Memphis is a different style, than other places as well. I think there's a lot more entertainment involved in the product coming out of Memphis than there was other places, other places, treated it, as strictly sport. Whereas in Memphis, I believe you got the entertainment value of it, and
why? Just because we were booking people like the Christmas Creature and Freddy from Nightmare on Elm Street, and we would do all sorts of stuff in Memphis. But you know what?
Man, great stuff, Jerry. I mean, I'll never forget. Going to the Mid-South Coliseum, and you had that ring and it had the Red Man Tobacco logo in the middle of the ring. And I was watching Eddie Gilbert, and I think he was with you, and he's taking these crazy bumps, and it's just so doggone entertaining. And I'll never forget my first match, just sitting there watching stuff thinking, man, this is just so much fun,
Well, and speaking of entertaining and going with characters more so than like I don't want to say legitimate, but hardcore wrestlers.
Right.
That translated into the WWE as well. If you remember, as a matter of fact, when you started in the WWE, that was at a point when everybody had to be some sort of character, and I think they just ran out of characters, so they just started putting just normal jobs with wrestlers. I mean, remember Duke the Dumpster Drosy? I mean, he was supposed to be a garbage man, and then of course your character, when you came along, you were supposed to be in real life a dentist who turned wrestler. So, I mean, and there were just all sorts of crazy characters at the time. Dusty Rhodes, they made him as, he really was supposed to be a plumber there and all the crazy things. But how did it come about that they wanted you, that they came up with the idea of you being a dentist?
So I was working in Smoky Mountain, and Jim Ross was on hiatus from WWE at the time. And Jim saw me, of course, big guy, and liked me personally. So he actually got me another tryout with Vince. And that went really well. I had a match against Reno Riggins. Of course, Reno's a very good worker and did a lot to make me look good. So within a week, they called and wanted to sign me to, at that time, just a developmental contract or something, to get me under contract. And I stayed down here in Knoxville for a few more months, and flew up to New York. And that was Vince. And this is a story that I tell all the time. And I'm so happy because I'm going to WWE. I've made it. I'm going to the big leagues. And I walk into J.J. Dillon's office and having small talk with J.J. And Vince comes in. And Vince asked me if I've ever been afraid to go to the dentist. And I said, no, sir. And then he's like, well, I've always had this idea for a wrestling character, a dentist. He goes, Issac Yankem. And then he says, I yank him. And then he does that laugh that only he can do. And it was one of those things where, when you're on top of the world, everything's going great. And then they just pull the rug right out from underneath you. And you just feel like you've tumbled down. Cause I'm like, man, I'm a wrestling dentist. How's that going to work? And I just, no pun intended, but I just never could sink my teeth into it. So a lot of, but a lot of the,
but Glenn, what I was saying, excuse me, but what I was saying was at that time, Vince was really into that. I mean, everybody.
Oh yeah, I mean, everybody had these over the top characters, and I was probably one of the last ones.
I remember Dirty White Boy came in. He was like T.L. Hopper.
He was the plumber. Yeah. Yeah. You had Alex Forteau was the pug. He was a hockey player.
Yes.
No, I'm sorry. That Bill Irwin was the goon. That was the hockey player. Alex Forteau was the pug. I don't know what the pug was. But yeah, everybody had these outlandish characters. And I was sort of the last of those. And like I said, it was just, the character didn't work, and that's mainly on me. I just, I didn't do it very well. And it wasn't certainly for lack of trying for WWE. I mean, I went in my first matches with Bret Hart, which was, a huge deal. But it did get my foot in the door, and, of course, Vince liked me, liked my work ethic and all that stuff. So decided to keep me around. But you say the character didn't work, but I mean, it worked. I mean, as far as I was, involved with it, I thought it worked great. I mean, if you remember, I had the kiss my foot match with Bret Hart. Yeah.
And so I had to wind up kissing Bret Hart's foot, which, we had gone through all of this buildup where each one of us was, making our feet as disgusting as possible. And so then when I had to kiss his foot, they actually came back and right after that match, I'm in the back and they came back they said, we're going to shoot an interview and you just complain about how bad the taste is in your mouth and all this sort of stuff. Well, right before they started doing the interview, I didn't even tell or ask anybody. There were some crackers there left over from the catering. I took several crackers, put them in my mouth, and took a big drink of Coca-Cola, and I had that in my mouth. And as when they started the interview, the camera kind of zoomed in on me, and I'm looking at myself in the mirror, just all disgusted. And then all of a sudden, I just looked like I vomited right onto the mirror. And I think at the time, Vince or somebody thought that I really threw up, and it just, it turned out. It turned out very believable, and it turned out well. And so then you were brought in to try to save my oral hygiene after that. And to me, I thought it worked perfectly in the fact that, here was a guy, a dentist, who was so. I think they used to say that you were so into the teaching young kids all about their dental hygiene that you let your own teeth become rotten just as an example to these kids to what could happen if they didn't go to the dentist and didn't have proper dental hygiene. And of course you had the bad looking teeth. And then we did all of those. I loved those videos where,
the vignettes were great.
Yeah.
Yeah. The vignettes were great.
You were drilling people. Yeah. They were screaming and all this sort of stuff. They were awesome.
You might think this is funny, McMahon, but it's not. I can assure you there is nothing humorous about this. You know what I mean? Oh, gosh. I want to tell you something. Ever since last night, I have been trying to get this stench, this smell out of my mouth. I thought I had terminal halitosis. Bret Hart, I'll give you credit. Your feet are the smelliest there was, the smelliest there is, and the smelliest there'll ever be. I've even had to come here to my good friend, Dr. Issac Yankem, D.D.S., and he's been working for the past hour and a half on my mouth, and it's not there yet. Wait a minute. Oh, Bret Hart, You have not seen the last of me. I want to tell you something. You're going to pay for this. I promise you. You are going to pay for what you did to me at King of the Ring. And my good friend, as I said, Dr. Issac Yankem, excuse me, D.D.S. has promised me, once he saw what you did to me, that he is going to extract some revenge himself. Because you see, Bret Hart, before he became the world's greatest dentist, he was also the world's greatest wrestler.
Yeah. Now, the vignettes were great, but the thing was that I think our audience was starting to change at this time. And, you were starting, they wanted something different. They wanted the more serious characters like the Stone Cold Steve Austins. They wanted, the harder edge stuff, because at that time WWE had, really gone, very, very family friendly, very PG. And I think our audience was just changing. And I think that had a lot to do with it as well. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Now, did you go, did somebody come to you? How did you go from the dentist, Issac Yankem, to Kane?
Well, we had in between, we had the fake Diesel character.
That's right.
Yeah. It was, was a product of JR, heel turn on the part of JR, and basically showing that he controlled the product and he could make anyone that he wanted a star. So I had that little stint, and then I was back with you. Actually, I was down in Memphis, and they had this idea. They needed someone to have a match. It was actually a pay-per-view match with Undertaker. And initially they were going to hotshot the whole thing. They just needed a one-match deal for Mark to have an opponent. And what they came up with was, his brother who had been burnt in a fire and put a mask on me and all that stuff. But Vince liked the storyline so much that he didn't want to just do one match. He thought that, he could make a real good story out of it. Thank goodness he thought that way. And we were able to.
It's all over. Now we'll come to Doomsday. No. Oh my God, wait a minute. It's Paul Bear. It's Paul Bear. And that's gotta be Kane. That's gotta be Kane.
So that's really how all that came about. I was, like I said, I was working for you, and never forget, I got to fly back up. I think it was Binghamton, New York, and have a meeting with Vince and talk about it and everything. And then for a while, I didn't know what was going to happen because they sort of put it on the back burner. But throughout the show, that whenever they had Paul Bearer had turned on Undertaker, and he would always talk about Kane, and this went on for 3 or 4 months, I think. And really, by the time that I debuted, they'd already had this story that had so much backstory. I think it was one of the best storylines WWE's ever done.
Yeah, they gave it such a great buildup and took so long. They didn't rush it. It was really laid out well. What were you doing in the 2 or 3 months, while they were building the story up?
I was still working for you. I think I was
Memphis,
USWA champion. Yeah, I was under a mask. I was Doomsday, a character that had been in Puerto Rico. Yep. And then I was USWA champion, traveling around with Dutch and, just making shots, going to Evansville and Louisville and, Nashville and everything.
Yep, the regular old Memphis territory every single week.
Yeah.
So then, boom. I mean, was Kane just an instant hit? I think, as I remember, it was because, like you and I said, they gave it such a great build-up. They didn't rush it.
It was just a character that I just stepped into. I mean, the character was already created in the minds of the audience, and of course, going out the first night and giving Undertaker Tombstone Piledriver to cost him the WWE Championship at the first Hell in the Cell, you can't make a bigger statement than that.
Yeah, that didn't hurt anything at all.
Yeah. And of course, I owe so much of the success of the character to him. I mean, he did so much to make sure that it got over and that it worked. And everybody did really. And I spent it was funny, I was on one of those WWE specials a while back, and they were talking about 1997 and my memories of 1997. And I was like, my memories of 1997 is I pretty much destroyed everybody until WrestleMania 1998. So it was a pretty good run.
Yes, it was. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then, and you know, talking about The Undertaker, I don't know if there's anybody in the WWE, and Mark's Mark's a very likable guy and everything, but he doesn't, you know, he's not really out there to be, you know, that's I don't know if he's not so open or whatever, but he's a hard guy to get close to. But I think you and Mark are as good of friends as anybody in the company, aren't you?
Yeah, he's a great guy. Like I said, I owe so much of my success to him. And I mean, that's from early on. You know, he worked with me when I was in Smoky Mountain Wrestling and came down, and gosh, you might have even been on this show as well. But, you know, Cornette would bring in big WWE names, and Mark came in, Shawn Michaels came in. I think it was Super Brawl here in Knoxville. And I worked with him there, and, you know, he took a liking to me right off the bat. And I think he also saw someone that he could, you know, work with
right
throughout, you know, going forward. But just helped me out tremendously as far as navigating the waters of the locker room and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, he's, you know, he just actually, you know, just came down, helped me out with my campaign, which was tremendous for him to do. And he doesn't normally do stuff like that. So yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah, really. So one other guy, and you mentioned your campaign. I want to get into that really quickly here. But one other guy, too, that was very instrumental in not only yours, but The Undertaker, Mark's career, was Percy Pringle or Paul Bearer.
Oh, yeah.
What a guy, huh?
Yeah, he sure was. The first few years that I was Kane, I traveled with Paul, and he would make all the travel arrangements. I mean, you know, a lot of people probably know this, but you know, WWE takes care of our air travel, but once we get on the ground, we're pretty much on our own. And he would always take care of all my stuff, and that was a huge load off me. I mean, he didn't have to do that. That was just something that he felt that he should do to help me out. And he was another guy that helped me, you know, navigate some of the, you know, just some of the stuff that goes on backstage, some of the politics that you do have to deal with. And we became very good friends. And you know, unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago. And the thing is, when I went to his funeral, I'll never forget. There was stuff from all over the world. People had sent cards and flowers, and it was really driven home to me the impact that all of us in WWE have on people around the world. But even here's a guy from Mobile, Alabama, who had become an international superstar. And, you know, that was really, it was bittersweet for me, you know, because Paul was one of those guys, you know, he was old school. He was tough on the outside, but he was a sweetheart down deep. He just had to get through that rough exterior to get there. And I know that he would have appreciated, you know, sentiments coming in from just all around the world, friends of his, you know, when he passed away.
Yeah, absolutely. I was absolutely actually on the very last appearance. Paul and I made a personal appearance, literally like 2 or 3 weeks before he passed away, and I knew, you know, when I saw him that night that he did not look well. But you talk about the heart of the guy. I think, and a lot of people don't realize this, but when Paul's wife died, I think that was the beginning. That was the beginning of the end for Paul. He pined and he grieved so much over his wife. He even told me that night something about. He said, "I'm just waiting around till I can be with my wife again." And I think he almost grieved himself to death.
I would agree with that. You know, the thing is, in our business, we're away from our family so much, and hopefully it's so that at some point we can spend a lot more time with our families. And then you get a bad hand like Paul was dealt with Diane, and that can just be crushing. And as you said, they were very close, and he indicated the same thing to me. He was really hurt when she passed away.
Yeah, it was sad. Well, listen, let's talk now a little bit. We're keeping you on here for so long, and I anytime you feel like you have to go, just let us know. But let's talk about what the campaign. This is amazing.
Yeah.
You're like in, man. I mean, you won the Republican primary for Knox County mayor, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. The general election is coming up in August. It's August 2nd. And winning the Republican primary was a huge step because we are predominantly a Republican area.
Right.
So I feel real good about my chances.
No, let's face it. You're going to be the next county mayor in Knox County, which encompasses Knoxville, Tennessee. That's probably the third largest city in the state of Tennessee, right?
We are, yeah. We're the third largest city, third largest county in the state of Tennessee. The budget's a little over $800 million now, and we have 450,000 people in the county. So it's certainly not a small endeavor.
No, it's not. What I ran for mayor over here in Memphis twice, and I gotta admit, it probably was more of a publicity stunt than actually me wanting to be the mayor. I mean, I would have done it, and I think it would have been okay, except for the cut and pay that I would have had to have. But I don't know. I woke up the morning after the election thinking, oh man, that's the greatest thing that never happened to me, when it didn't win. But now you're going to win, and you're going to have to be the mayor. I mean, that's an awesome responsibility. I mean, what made you want to do this, Glenn?
Well, yeah, I've always been interested in politics ever since I was a kid. And, the thing is, I grew up on a farm in Missouri. And when I look back at my life and I think, gosh, how have I been able to do this stuff that I've been able to do? If you'd asked me when I was much younger, I've traveled the world. I've done all these things. I mean, I've been in the ring with some of the greatest performers in the world, not only in sports entertainment, but I've been in there with guys like Drew Carey and Pete Rose and the Muppets. I've been on a Scooby-Doo movie. I've done all this really awesome stuff. I've been able to provide a good living for my family.
And remember when we were on Missing Link together?
Yeah. I've been on game shows. I pat myself on the back. I won a bunch of money for St. Jude's Hospital, Children's Research Hospital on the show. And how can someone like me be able to do all that stuff? And it's because I grew up in a place in America where you have the opportunity to do things like that, where you have the freedom to do that. And I think that's very important. I think the free enterprise system is very important that we preserve that. And, I just want to make sure that my kids and my grandkids now have these same opportunities that I had. And of course, everyone else is as well. I think that's important for our generation to ensure that the next generation, experiences our way of life.
Well, that is great. It's just, I think the term, which is what you're going to be, a public servant, has almost been, I don't know, it's almost been lost. People don't think of politicians as public servants anymore. But that is what it sounds to me like you're going out there to actually do, because you're giving up a totally different lifestyle. And almost in the same way that Donald Trump did. I mean, here's a guy who was a billionaire, a wonderful lifestyle, and gave all of that up to now be ridiculed and made fun of and all of this kind of stuff. But because he's trying to do something that's, good for the country. And that's the same thing in your case. I mean, you're giving up a lot to serve the people of Knox County, and you're to be commended for that.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And, it is going to be different. Hopefully it'll be worth it, and I realize that in politics, it's one of those things, no matter what you do, someone's always going to be mad at you. And someone's always going to think that you're doing it for whatever reason, even when you're really trying to do what you think is best. And that will be different. I'm used to being in the public eye, but in a different way than this. Of course, we do know that sometimes wrestling fans can be a little cynical themselves.
Yes.
But certainly not to the extent that it is in politics. And, all the enemies that, you make by trying to do the right thing, which is unfortunate. But I also hope maybe that I can do, a little bit to change that. as much as I can, hopefully.
Well,
Glenn,
let me just say that it seems that politics, and I'll just say it's almost since the, maybe Obama but definitely Donald Trump, the feelings on I don't remember ever as a kid growing up, and then even in early adulthood or anything, I don't ever remember the politics being so vile and it's almost like they just people, if you're on one side or the other, it's so partisan now, and it's almost like they just hate each other on the other side.
Yeah,
and it's so sad.
Super divisive.
If anything you could do to change that, it would be great.
Yeah, it's super divisive. I'll tell you a quick story. My son-in-law is a fan of a certain athlete, and this person was actually had an opportunity to meet with them, and this is right after the election, and I was trying to set that up, and then I guess they heard that I was on like Fox News or whatever after the election, and they told the folks who were trying to set up, like, I can't meet with Glenn because he's on the right and I'm on the left, and I'm going, I wasn't going to talk politics, dude. I just want you to meet my son-in-law, Right.
You're an athlete.
It permeates everything now,
Yep.
and that's sort of what's unfortunate too, is the fact that, we can't talk to each other as human beings. We talk to each other through the filter of conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat, and that's unfortunate. So, hopefully I can do something to change that, but I don't know.
Well, I think the major cause, we're a society now that has become a totally a blame society. Everything has to be blamed on something. Nothing just happens. It's everything. There's a root, and everybody has to have a fall guy or something. So everything has to be blamed on something. But I blame this divisiveness on the fact that there's so much media out there. There's so many news channels, and in reality, the sad thing is, they're a business, and they're in business to make money themselves, and they make money by ratings and having people watch their shows, and that supersedes the fact that they're out there what they're really supposed to do is just give the news. A lot of these things now, there's so many stations out there, they create news to try to get ratings and that sort of thing. And I think that's where, we've always been a country too where, bad news sells better than good news. And so I think they create a lot of the bad news just to get ratings, and that creates a lot of the divisiveness that is out there. Hopefully in the county, as the county mayor, you won't be under such, tight media scrutiny as if it were, a nationwide type thing.
Right. I agree with you 100%. The 24-hour news has really, really changed everything, and it's become entertainment now. And, the news is a kernel of the truth, but so much of it is just based around, making sure that they're drawing ratings, which you do through sensationalizing things, right, and really causing conflicts that in many places aren't. In many situations aren't there. I really do think you hit the nail on the head with all that. And certainly I won't be under the scrutiny that the president will be under, but nevertheless, I'm right. I'm a high profile guy. So, I already get a little bit of it, which I can use to my advantage, but certainly my political enemies will use against me as well. So, yeah,
I was wondering, did whoever, it haven't happened yet. I mean, the actual, the election is in August. What day actually is it in August?
It's August 2nd.
August 2nd. And I guess probably I was going to ask you, has anybody, do you think they'll try to use your celebrity as a WWE superstar against you? I mean, I always thought that like when everybody knows that Donald Trump came to WWE. He's been inducted into WWE Hall of Fame. But that big match that we had which was still to me to this day was one of the most fun matches that I ever called. When Donald Trump's hair was at stake and Vince's hair was at stake, and Donald Trump winds up giving Vince a clothesline and gets him down and pounding him. I really thought that during that election they would have tried to utilize that and just made a mockery of him more so than they did. But do you think anything like that will come into play in your election?
I think it would have already happened in the primary. And again, though, the thing about it is since it's a local election, when I'm actually able to get out there and talk to people, they realize that the wrestling thing and me are two different things. And also, frankly, at this point, we've come such a long way. And we have people like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as the #1 movie star in the world, and Lynn McMahon in President Trump's cabinet. I don't know that he's a wrestler thing. I don't know that has the same impact negative that it would 20 years ago, because people now that watch this in the Attitude Era are voters,
Right.
and they think it's cool. And that's what I actually found is the people that weren't wrestling fans, they didn't really care. And the people that were wrestling fans think it's the coolest thing ever. So I actually think that, it's sort of, I'm not going to say that it helped me that much. The celebrity part did, because I was able to get a lot more press. But as far as, I think it actually sort of canceled each other out, the negative and the positive. Yeah,
there used to be a certain stigma associated with being a wrestler, and now, like you said, with the success of The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin with TV shows, John Cena now all over the place with TV and movies, and that you're right. I think that stigma has been taken away, and people are no longer they don't have a problem associating themselves with a WWE superstar.
I'll tell you a funny story, Jerry. I was out knocking on doors one evening, and this guy, he's an older gentleman. He was in his 70s, and one of my other guys actually knocked on his door, and he's like, "Hey, that's Kane, right?" And so I go over and I'm talking to this guy. Like I said, he's probably in his mid 70s, and it's a Monday night. And he looks at his watch and he goes, "Man, I got to go. Raw's coming on." And he turns around and runs back inside his house. So it was just so funny to drive on the fact that, WWE now crosses every age and every demographic, so it's pretty cool.
Well, you're exactly right. And we want to wish you the best of luck. But like you said, I think you're a shoo-in, and we're going to be you probably won't have time to talk on podcast once you're the actual county mayor of Knox County. But if we can, we'll at least call and get you to say hello to us again in the future, okay?
That sounds good, man. I appreciate it. I've enjoyed it.
Well, thank you so much. I don't want to take up any more time. GM, Glenn Moore, did you have any last questions? You have been very quiet during this interview. I can't believe that.
I've just letting the King and one of my all-time favorite performers, King, Glen Jacobs, talk. But I have a question, and Glenn, if you do, when you win, I mean, I love seeing you on WWE TV, and I know you were at WrestleMania in the Battle Royal, but I mean, how does that impact your wrestling career if you do win Knox County Mayor?
Oh, well, certainly I have to take a much lighter schedule, but we'll see. The future's yet to be written. And I always, people are going to say, you're going to retire. And, the old saying in WWE is never say never. So we'll just have to see.
Exactly right. Now, I think that was one of the things that did work against me when I ran for mayor. I was actually running for the city mayor here in Memphis, and they would ask me that question. Well, when you become the mayor, are you going to stop dealing with WWE? And I would say, look, I only work one day a week. I just go out and I do Raw on Monday night, and I said that'll be my day off from I won't take Sunday off or anything. I'll take Monday off, and I'll go and do my little commentating job, and I'll be back on the job here. And actually, I think that might have been one of the things that did me in on the thing. But I was being honest with him. I couldn't take the cut and pay, to be the mayor and give up a WWE full-time job. But anyway, whatever you decide, like you said, the future is still there to be written, and we want to wish you the best of luck, Glenn. I'm so proud of the fact and so proud of your career that you've had and is still continuing on to be bigger and better. And I'm just proud of the fact that, I was there and Memphis was there a little bit in the beginning to kind of be a part of your start of this great career.
Well, thanks, Jerry. And you certainly were. I mean, you helped me out a lot early on. And that was the place. Like I said, that was the place that I went to, to get some experience, to learn some stuff. You were always kind to me and a wealth of knowledge. So I appreciate everything you've done for me. Well,
thank you so much, Glenn, and best of luck in the future. And ladies and gentlemen, Glen Jacobs, Kane from WWE, and the hopefully future county mayor in Knox County, Tennessee. So, Glenn, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks, Glenn.
A very special interview is Jerry the King Lawler.
All right, Paul Bearer, you've asked me to come back into Kane's locker room, and I want you to, first of all, assure me that I'm going to be safe.
I told you not to worry. No worries.
Now, King, I know I didn't speak that much during this this interview segment. I just was just sitting back and listening to you and Glenn, talk about Memphis and WWE and talking about running for mayor and politics. So I was just enjoying the conversation between you and Glenn.
Well, yeah, but I knew, and he was a great guest, but I just knew that he was such a, he was your favorite of all time probably, and I just expected more out of you.
Well, you guys
were you kind of in awe?
Not in awe. I'm just, you guys were such a good flow with each other. I just didn't want to interrupt.
Well, that's good.
So, but no, it was a great conversation with Glenn. Talking, and he doesn't like talking about Issac Yankem that much. So I'm very surprised that he did actually go into detail about the character on the podcast. Maybe because of you, King, and not some shock jock radio host.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I loved that character. I mean, it really helped me in the in the deal with Bret the Hitman Hart at the time. I mean, and they, one of my favorite matches that I ever was involved in up there was Glenn as Issac Yankem against Bret Hart, and they put me in the cage and had me hoisted above the ring, and my nose started bleeding. And they said that was like one of the first times that they'd ever seen blood on a WWE show at the time.
Oh wow!
And yeah, so that was a little bit of part of history there too. And I'll never forget Vince. Vince was sitting down there and he's looking up there and he sees my nose is bleeding from the height, and then he starts going, "You're all right, King. You're all right. You're okay." It's kind of showed some concern there for me. It was, but yeah, that was a cool thing. I love the Issac Yankem character.
Yeah, I watching back, he did agree the vignettes were terrific. I don't think he liked wrestling as Issac Yankem because I don't think anybody could take him, a dentist like that seriously. But thank God for him turning into Kane, and that career has spanned over 20 plus years of the Kane character and has evolved into so many different variations of that character to now where he's into politics, and hopefully when he does win Knox County Mayor, we can still see him on TV.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, all right, Glenn, this has been a long podcast.
Not really, but I'm sure it is.
Not really.
Not one of our longest, but
I bet Issac Yankem thinks it was long.
He was great. He was a great guest.
Oh, he really was.
Terrific. He doesn't do any podcasts. I think he's only been on 3. The King.
Really?
The King, Edge and Christians, and JR's.
Wow.
I don't think he's even been on Stone Cold's. I'm not sure.
He was on JR's?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
And Edge and Christian.
I don't have a sound effect for Edge and Christian.
You're going to be in New York this weekend, King?
I am. I'm doing something for the 2-man power trip up there, and then I'm going to be. I think that's in New Jersey on Saturday, and then Sunday I'm going to be signing up in Albany, right outside of Albany, New York, at a sports memorabilia show there. So I got a busy weekend.
Then the SmackDown is in Memphis next week.
Yeah, SmackDown's in Memphis. I'm sure I'll go. I don't know if they'll have me do anything on the show. Last time they were here, I got kicked by Dolph Ziggler.
Well, last time Raw was there, you introduced Pelvis Wesley.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And Friday is when Dana White and UFC is going to be in town, and you're going to be putting on a wrestling show in front of the Bar and Grill on Beale Street, right?
Yeah, Dana White is going to have me come over and meet at a gym with a couple of his UFC fighters, and he's going to have me show them some wrestling moves. And then later on in the evening, we're going to have a ring set up outside of my club on Beale Street. Dana White and the two UFC guys are going to fight two wrestlers, Derek King and Dustin Starr. So that is going to be interesting. I'm going to see if I can show those guys and see if I can teach them a pile driver. Do you think you could use a pile driver in a UFC match? I guess you could if you got your opponent in the proper position, couldn't you?
I don't think you're allowed to jump people on their heads, but I mean, I don't know.
Sure you can. Sure you can do it like a suplex to them.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I guess that'll be fun. I guess we'll see that Friday. Can people come from Memphis? Can come out to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It's going to be free.
All right, so all the people in Memphis who are in the Memphis area can come out to the King's Bar and Grill on Beale Street and watch some wrestling. And Dana White's going to be there, I would assume. So that'd be should be a nice crowd on Friday. That is June 15th, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And you might have a little bit of company for that, King.
Who's that?
You'll find out next week. So, King, we'll talk to you next week here on the podcast.
Yeah, wait a minute. You can't do this to me. What are you talking about?
I might stick around for a little longer when I'm down here in Memphis.
Oh, no. You're coming back? All right. We'll talk more about that next week.
Yeah, we will. All right. Well, next week is our Jackie Fargo tribute. So King has some unreleased audio, too, from Jackie Fargo. We'll play that on the show. We'll do a whole tribute show to Jackie Fargo, and that will be next week's episode. So on that note, thanks to Kane for coming on the show. And King, final word?
Quick reminder of what I told everybody earlier about Blue Chew. Just want to remind you that with Blue Chew, you can increase your performance and get that extra confidence in bed, because BlueChew.com brings you the first chewable with the same FDA-approved active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis. They work up to twice as fast as a pill, so you can be ready anytime, day or night. Blue Chew is the better, cheaper, faster choice. So visit BlueChew.com and get your first shipment free when you use our special promo code KING, K-I-N-G. You just pay $5 shipping. Again, that's Blue, B-L-U-E, Chew.com. And the promo code is KING to try it for free.
That's a lot of final words, King. So,
yeah, okay.
All right.
Goodbye, everybody.
The preceding show is a Pod Avenue production.